We back again, bro. What's
It feels
going
like
on, my man?
it feels like we're back. It feels like we're back.
Feels
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, man. Appreciate everyone for checking into Community Beacon. We are coming to you live. If you are tuning in, this is say hello. Join in the conversation. We definitely appreciate you all. Of course, I am Michael Seville, your real estate guy here in
the
Northern
real
Palm Beach.
estate king, 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 king.
You guys are lucky. I was attempting to upload a couple of videos earlier today into this StreamYard, and I just couldn't seem to do it. But I'll make sure I have it next time. That way we could just kind of flash a couple things up there because we get to enjoy ourselves. And of course, on the other side of the screen, we have the incomparable Mr. Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation. Apparently a superstar because I was scrolling through Instagram and I seen the man have a bunch of different videos up there. He was walking in the backyard or next to the water. He's coming in through the front door. He's sitting in the stairwells. So he has a whole team behind him because I know he's not doing it. So he has someone who's helping, who's shooting the videos. He has someone who's editing the videos because the brother is doing it big. The brother's
Yeah,
doing it big. So
yeah.
shouts out to him. He also came on there.
Appreciate
He might have speeches for sale. He got speeches that make people cry when they hear it. And so he'll sell you the words. The passion is sold separately. The passion is sold separately. You can get the words, but the passion is sold separately, man. So, brother, what is going on?
Hey, man, all is well. I definitely appreciate that shout out right there about the works that we have going on over here. Let me get my microphone a little bit closer. Just wanted to say that. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
yeah.
Hey, listen, talking about appreciation. Listen, y'all know that the house that I'm in, this man sold it to me.
And
So I
I,
feel good about that. He showed up like Superman. Amen. So
yeah.
I'm just very, very grateful. This is a dynamite team that we have here. Me and Mike been going at this thing now. I guess we've been friends maybe about 12 years, 15 almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Coming up on 15 years, somewhere around there. I know we're beyond 10 because the day that we did, it was a 10-year anniversary when we were together on Lou's show, What's Next? And I think that was 4 years ago. So we're approaching 15, brother. We're approaching 15.
Yeah, yeah, 20. It might have been 2021 though. I think the Lou show was 2021 if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah,
All
so
right.
it's around there.
We're right around there. We're right in between there. Hey y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, y'all, listen, the gathering is awesome. We're having a great time in there. So for all the men out there that would like to be a part of a male's perspective group, please jump in. I will tell you this, that I'm in the middle of speaking with a few ladies, and we will have our ladies perspective group out of the Tenacity Foundation coming up within the next month. We've got a few more appointments and meetings and discussions to make sure that everything is laid out just right. And maybe in a few months after that, we'll be ready to go ahead and dive into the young people because we want to make sure that the Tenacity Foundation, we're well rounded and we're helping out the family. You know, we started with the man builder, help build a better man, help build a better family, help build a better community, help build a better city, help build a better state, help build a better country. Let's get at it, y'all.
Yeah, shouts out that. I think I'm excited about next week. I think there's supposed to be a presidential debate. There's so much propaganda out here.
Mm.
I'm excited to see and I normally don't watch these different things. Like I'm not huge. I don't really tune into it, but I am excited to hear what they have going on. I think our country is heading in an interesting direction, and this is one. Oh, yeah, and I think always like right, it's always a pivotal moment when we're looking to see who's going to be the leader of our country. So I'll be tuned in. So I guess we'll watch that. I'm also hoping that everyone had an awesome Father's Day weekend. That was last week.
Yes,
I
yes,
enjoyed
yes.
it. Everybody was here. We had the nieces, we had the nephews. My father's here, so he got to be around all of his grandkids, and we had an awesome time. So I hope you all had the same. That was dope. It was dope.
I
How
love it.
about you? How was your Father's Day, brother?
Oh man, Father's Day was it was good. It was real good. It was kind of strange, the way we did it. We were so there were so many activities going on Father's Day, and at the last minute, I ended up working at the station.
Okay.
So I got back, and they had everything laid out for me, but my wife was doing things, then my daughter was doing things, and so everybody needed to be in the same room at the same time. But my daughter looked at the table. She was like, "Dad, it's like your birthday all over again." It's like, wow. They treated me well. They treated me well. It was not just socks, although I like the socks. I
I
like
don't mind
socks
it
and
either.
ties. I got a nice tie, and I
Yeah.
do want some new socks. So now I got to go out and buy my own socks.
Now
All
you got to
because
buy.
Mike got online. He got on this thing last week and he started talking about the socks. Now I got no socks. So, Mike, thank you.
You better not buy those socks. Yeah, no. No, that is awesome. Someone said mentioned in the gathering about just being appreciated. I think above all, most men
Yeah.
and on Father's Day, they just want to be appreciated. So whether it's the socks, whether it's the ties, whatever it is, it's just
A
like, hey,
hug.
appreciate. Yeah, hug.
I
Yeah,
love you.
yeah.
A
A
phone
phone
call from
call.
your children
Yeah.
afar.
A
Yeah.
text. I got so many text messages, and I was just like, do I even know this many people?
Gosh, man, you know everybody, Mike.
it,
Gosh,
it,
man, you put everybody in the house.
it,
You're
it was
Superman.
we're
You're,
working,
you're
but
Superman.
it was. I'm telling you, I got so many text messages. I was answering text messages the next morning.
Yes.
Saying sending it back a thank you. So man, I really do. I appreciate it 1,000%.
Yes.
Those who reached out and did it, and we're here.
And those who thought about it. Let me put that out because I'm telling you, I'm sitting here sending out a little message to let everybody know about how we're live. And I'm realizing there was people that sent me Happy Father's Day and I never even responded. I'm just now seeing that stuff. I'm like, oh man, Happy Father's Day. By the way, we're live. So if
Blake,
you're
Blake,
on
what?
now, I want you to know I apologize. Just like Mike said, a lot of stuff came through and I didn't see every single text.
Yeah,
So love you. Thank you.
yeah, and I'm sure they know you appreciate it, brother. Blame it on his mind and not his heart or his eyes. He's in his old age, so he doesn't see as good as he
Oh,
used
oh
to.
man, he's talking right now, y'all. Somebody,
We-
gosh, man, this is gonna be a fire episode. I can feel it already because Mike is already throwing some shade.
All right,
Gosh,
let's get into it, okay? Unlocking self-worth, the male perspective on self-concept. It's a long title. Self-concept, value, and overcoming limited beliefs. Shouts out to AI because I'm sure AI is the one that
yes,
came up with
yes,
this long title. But essentially, we're going to be going into self-value. We'll be talking a little bit about self-esteem. I'm huge on self-concept. That's the overall thought process of how we feel about ourselves and essentially how we start to express ourselves into this world. But I can start off why I think this conversation is needed. And we came up with a lot of these different topics weeks ago, but every time we sit down and say, okay, what are we going to be speaking about today? I tend to get excited because these topics are so relevant day in and day out. Um, Specifically surrounding this self value and this self worth. I some when you're a child, you start to think like when you're a grown up, like everything is just kind of set. Like things
mm,
are just, you become this grown up and you all of a sudden everything's gonna fall into place and things just happen. And now me being at the age that I am and just being surrounded and having so many different conversations and being around people who are growth minded, so on and so forth. There's some people who are not necessarily that as well, but just having a lot of conversations and paying attention and getting this feedback, it's almost incredible to me the amount of issues we have or challenges we have around as a man around self-worth, not
mm,
knowing who they are, not knowing what they are, not knowing what value the value that they serve. And just really when we start to talk about self-worth, which is really the intrinsic feeling one feels about themselves, like the base of, should I be here, am I
mm,
adding to this conversation? Am I adding to my family? Am I adding to my environment, right? Am I adding to my environment, my friends, the places when I walk around? The amount of people who kind of hesitate to say, yeah, I am doing it. And then they have these issues of self worth. And one of the things that was really, really interesting to me, and this probably is in the last year that this just came to me, was some of the people who you would have thought like this wasn't a conversation to be had. Like you just said, okay, this person's got it. They kind of really don't have it. There's almost sometimes this false sense of bravado of people who are
Hmm.
coming out and saying, you know, they put off one they put off themselves, they show themselves to be one way, but in conversation and just listening, you start to say, wait a minute, there's these, because a lot of our decisions we make are based on some of the ways that we think about and feel about ourselves. You're like, well, what'd you do that for? Or how
Hmm.
did you get yourself into this situation? And a lot of this comes back to how they feel about themselves. The buying of, certain things that they can't afford, whether it's cars, whether it's clothes. Like right now, we're in a time and place where it's this huge designer, everyone has to have a designer type, clothing. They're paying $300 for belts. They might get the fake ones and pay $30 for it. But I mean, essentially, it's like we have to show that we're worth this. And so I guess we can go over in regards to this conversation. I guess we can start. How do we come up? How do we come to this place where we are now, and how do we go moving forward? So I don't know, brother. What are your thoughts around this conversation?
Man, as soon as you said a false sense of bravado, I was like, wow, that's deep. I mean, just starting off right there, right? Because it's like that's the truth in the matter. There's a lot of it. Well, the appearance of it is. I don't know where this came from. I mean, you set me down this pathway of memory where I'm just starting to think about all of these different little videos, and sometimes I'll see something on Instagram or somewhere, and it's like he just turned 18, and this is how he went out on the town, and he's got $200,000 in his hands. He's just like walking out of the house with stacks of cash, $100,000, and he's just like flashing it around. I just saw that video just recently. I'm like, what? When did this happen? When when did this happen? When did this happen that this was not like it wasn't like this in Virginia. In Virginia, it was not like this. Everybody didn't have a Cuban link. It was not like this. Your friend got he was the one with the money. He got a brand new Ford Focus, and he got some tens and some 12s or something like that. And he was booming. And you were like, man, yeah, he got it. He still had on the same pair of shorts you had on, the same type of shirt you had on. Down here in Florida, I don't know about 49 other states or 48 other states, but it was like down here in Florida, you see these guys 16, 17, 18 years old. They are flexing in Lambos. They got gold to the wisdom tooth. They got Cuban links. They got these chains, wheat chains, Italian chains, and they're thicker than my thumb. The chains are bigger than my thumb. And I'm just like, when when did this happen that we're not talking about a Lexus anymore. There was a time when you flexed the Lex, you were like bad to the bone.
Let's.
Talking about they're in Bentleys. And I know that a lot of these things people are renting them, but it's like, well, when did this happen? Are they renting the gold? I mean, you tell me, do we have to be that way? What is going on?
I'm thinking, and I don't know. It's probably not the same video, but it was around prom time. We started seeing a lot of, I did rent. I did have. I did. We did rent cars for prom. We had limos as well for prom. I also had gold teeth when I was about that age as well. So maybe it
Limo
is
for prom is like normal. Doesn't
right.
I mean that's like something that your parents will do for you. Hey man,
I
you got to show up in style. But I
they
mean, every weekend,
they've stepped. I think they've stepped it up. I mean, I and this goes back into, and this is really maybe the last 20, 30 years, and we can even go into the conversation of these entertainers as idols, because it definitely goes into that,
yeah,
and these entertainers and celebrities that are be given that are given to us. And when I say entertainers, I'm also including athletes. These young people who are 20, 19, 20, 21, 22, playing professional sports, the top 1% of probably half percent of people in the world in regards to what they're getting paid now. And then we have our young people, and not it's not even just the young people, right? Like I mean, if it was, I could understand the young people wanting those things. They don't even have a clear understanding of who they are at that point. So they're it's mimicking. What's the saying that I brought up a couple weeks ago, which is children repeat what they hear and mimic what they see. So you see a lot of young people want to aspire to these things, and Instagram and social media makes it more accessible. I mean, what we saw was on TV, and we still want to aspire to those things. I remember in the eighth, when I was in a senior in high school, I was like, I need to have a 550 Benz by the time I'm 25 or 26. So these were some of the thoughts that we had that were kind of given to us, and we thought that's what we wanted to aspire to. Now, when you start to get to this 30, the 40s, and the 50s, and the 60-year-old people who possibly can't afford this, and they're still buying it, so their net worth is wrapped up into these expressions of having it, and if they don't have it, they feel bad about themselves. This goes back to the self-worth. So like I said, in the last year, just taking a step back and taking a look at it, and also understanding the stats of the typical American household, how much they're getting paid, what's their what's their yearly income, so on and so forth. And you're like, well, most of these people who are buying these things cannot afford these things, but if they don't have those things, then they feel bad about themselves. So they have to put on to say, this is what I'm worth, and the way that I show this worth is buy these things for when people are how they value us. It's attached to their self-esteem. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
so this in the last 20, 30 years, this has been it. Like this, I always call it the American illusion. I always say there's a difference between the American dream and the American illusion. The American illusion is telling you that you need to have these things. I mean, think about it. We start to speak about, uh they had this they called like the female, what's it, the delusionary chart or something, where they ask you,
mm,
like what do you think the average man makes, or what does the average man need to make in order to date you, etc. You start to hear the six figures. You start to hear, I don't, he needs to maintain a household by himself. You start to hear like all of these things that aren't even close to the truth. When we start to see that, what is it, the average male in America, black male in America, makes around 50 grand. Average white male in America makes around 56,000. But we're hearing that you need to make 100,000. In the black community, I think it's even worse. I remember in the black community, like by the time you hit 20, you needed to be a multi-millionaire, or at least have the appearance of a multi-millionaire.
mm.
You needed to have 24, 25 inch, at the time I was at my age, you had to have 24 inches on your car, rims on your car, and these rims cost 15 grand. So I'm in the South, so you had to have candy paint. And if you didn't have all these, then you had to have like a Benz or some type of foreign car that cost. I mean, by the time you're 20, 21, this is what was expected of you. Uh,
Programming.
yeah, it's definitely programmed. So a lot of these things have happened in the last 30 to 40, I would imagine. Like I can't really speak, but I just don't think like this, your self-worth prior to this was based on that. And I'm trying to get people to understand that at the lower level thinking, it's like, yeah, and this is not to say that money is not important. or or shouldn't be made a priority. You got, I would imagine that you do want to have nice things. You want your family to be in a nice neighbor, in a safe and nice neighborhood that's in a lifestyle that's comfortable, right? I think most of us want these different things. However, to be in constant debt to make these things happen, and if these things aren't happening, for you to feel less of yourself, not feeling comfortable at home, not feeling comfortable around your, your significant other, not feeling comfortable to be a father in your child's life because you're told you need to provide all of these different things. It's a detriment not only to yourself but essentially to the community. This is when we start to get into, and I always go back to my chart, but we start to saying, like, if this is where we need to be and we're not there, if we're where we think we need to be and we're not there, this is where depression comes in. This is where shame comes in. This is when you start to turn your back on certain things because in your mind it's shameful, or you feel guilty. It could be, one or the other. And then what happens, what I started to see, is that people start to chase these things, and they're willing to do whatever in order to gain these things. And if they don't get it, then and they're willing to use other people in order to do it as well. So it's like, if we need to come with a more realistic way of measuring this. And essentially, when we start to talk about self-worth, like intrinsically, we need to have the understanding, and not the false understanding, the real true understanding of, I'm here and I make a difference. My presence, I heard someone say this the other day, my presence is the present, right? My presence is the present. And then when I'm present and I'm there with all of my, and I'm being resourceful, meaning that I'm being loving, I'm being trusting, I'm being faithful, I'm being, what are the, and I'm connecting, I'm being empathetic. When all these things are present, then, and this just adds on to it. But we have to say that just for you being present, brother, male, you, me, just for me being here, that's that's it. We should be respected at that point, and then we start to add on to it. And I think it makes it a little bit easier for us to come to that thought process, as opposed to saying, well, in order for me to be anything, I got to make 100,000. Like, that's the, money, whatever. I got to be at this level. And if you're not there, then you're coming from a deficit, right? And maybe that may not be a favor. Maybe that's not your favor, is to make money. That's not your gift. It's not making money. Your gift could simply just be in that stand up brother, that presence, that deterrent, right? I mean, just by a man being around, you tend to deter things from negative things from happening. Oh, I'm not going down this street because there's a bunch of brothers on this street that really respect and love their community, right? I'm not going into this home because there's a brother there at his home, and it makes it harder for me to do whatever, and of course I'm coming from that aspect of it because that's the safety part of it. But that's it. What your thoughts on that, and definitely add to it.
Yeah, man. Well, I agree with what you're saying. I think that there's a whole lot of chasing the Joneses. I feel like when we were coming up, though, there was a lot more conversation about not chasing the Joneses. And I just say that not because not because I've done some sort of poll. I mean, I still those are still the types of language, the type of language that I have had with my children. I don't care what the kids at school are doing. My first daughter, she must have been like almost 16 before she got her first cell phone. So this, I mean, this is like unheard of in this day and age because children have cell phones at the age of 6 months. It's just, there's definitely a different thing going on. And I believe that because of the access to a lot of people that look like me. And what I mean by that is if I go through social media, and any social media, I will probably find someone who's my age that's doing something tangibly that is more extravagant than me. I'll probably find that. I'll probably find someone my age that is jumping out of a plane, or somebody my age that is purchasing an island, or they're going to multiple islands, or they're out partying on a multi-million dollar yacht, or whatever. Now, me at age 45, it's like, okay,
Jesus.
whatever. I hear you. That's right. Call my father. He blessed me with these years. Yeah, listen, y'all. I am 26 years older than I thought that I would be at one point in time in my life. I'm in the extra credit zone, y'all. I'm in overtime. I've been blessed. That's another day, another life, another story. I believe that has something to deal with it, because when I was 13, all I had was like MTV raps. It was stuff like that. That was the only way I was going to be able to see what other people were doing. Other than that, it was them local jokers that was in my neighborhood. And we were all pretty much around the same because we were in the same neighborhood. But I didn't have access to Richie Rich was the only rich kid I knew, and he was a cartoon. But nowadays, you look on social media, you can obviously a young person can see another 13-year-old that's just like living in the lap of luxury. In the book of James, it talks about humbling yourself in the sight of the Lord. I believe that we all ought to live as humbly as we possibly can. I think that even as a person that follows God, that as people that choose to be balanced that way, that many times we fall suspect to the same types of traps that everybody falls to. And I know that sometimes that gets held over a believer's head because they're like, oh, you're supposed to be this. You're also supposed to be a human, right? There is something about that lesson that is in there that may not be being ingrained inside of people. And it's a difficult thing, brother. I mean, there is a false sense of bravado, a false sense of boldness, a false sense of I gotta have it to be like the Joneses. But I also feel as if some people are moving rapidly because technology has changed. I'm speaking on the good side of things. Technology has changed, and the ability to earn a dollar has changed. When we start talking about entertainment, there was a time when you had to be some type of sports player, or you had to be a known artist, entertainment artist, whether that's movies, singing, rapping, playing an instrument. And those were the top career fields that would make you a millionaire instantly. You just, and I don't know if it's an instant thing. You still had to practice to be able to sing, but you could make it. You could make it, and it would, the royalties of what you do would pay off. But then all of a sudden, YouTube came out, and then social media showed up, and people started to get paid because they could do something from behind the camera, like me and you. And boom, we began to see the amount of millionaires skyrocket. I mean, right now, we're probably making a millionaire multiple times in a day. I would think. I'd have to look that up. So I agree with you. I think that for some people that are still in like the old school way of thinking, get a job, go to work, take care of your family, get a pension, retire at a ripe age. Then for those that are kind of playing that role the way that it was passed down over the last 40, 50 years, I think that there may be a little stagnation there. There's not that thought process of multiple sources of income. And there's an opportunity for all people, really. Men, there's an opportunity. Men, gosh, man, there's an opportunity for men to lose their self concept, their self worth, their self value wrapped up in this. The perception that we have of ourselves can be lost. And I'll say this piece too. I'll say this piece too, because there's another aspect of it. So there's an internal aspect where we lose a piece of that because we we aren't doing something to be able to achieve whatever that is that we want to achieve. And sometimes that thing is getting lost in achieving what other people are achieving. So we're losing sight of ourselves, chasing what we believe or where we believe we should be. But I think that there's an external point. I thought about this, especially when I said men, because sometimes if a man desires to have that relationship with a woman, and a man, what if he doesn't hit those certain points in life? He doesn't have everything that men have. Will he get passed over when it comes down time for picking the appropriate person to marry? What do you think, bro?
I love it. I think this is first off. I think this is one of the more truer statements. I'm seeing a lot of different statements. Some of them I think are just pulled out from where. But I think this statement in particular, I'm not sure who said it first, but it rings true in regards to this conversation. Is that comparison is the thief of joy? And so the comparing yourself to these other people, regardless of where the access was, I think it was always there. Social media definitely has our attention almost 24/7 because it's we can take it with us, right? Like it's mobile, we're taking it with us. But I remember growing up, and there was Robin Leach had the lifestyles of the rich and famous. You mentioned MTV. I remember MTV Cribs. What's so funny now is that we go back and look, and we hear that a lot of the homes in MTV Cribs were rented, that they didn't even belong to these celebrities and artists. We see at this point in time, since there's so much more information, that a lot of these artists that we looked up to that had hit songs or were great in the movies, so on and so forth. I mean, some very famous people at the time, they have stories now who say, man, I was just about to uh, I was living in my car at this time. I remember Will Smith told a story about the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and he said I was still riding the bus. When it was at the height of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Let alone a lot of these musicians who end up dying totally broke with nothing, can't support their family, leave nothing to their family. But these images are put in front of us, and it's something that we're aspiring to, and the people who were aspiring to be, they don't even have it like we thought that they had it. So if we can sit back and if we can just take a step back and say, listen, comparison is the thief of joy. These things, stop putting these things on a pedestal. Once again, these huge homes, these luxury vehicles, the fame. And now it's really the fame. Like people are willing to do whatever for attention. Like that's the new form of currency, is the attention. And then we take a look at it. I heard someone the other day said they had it's an influencer. He said I had 1 million followers, and he said I may have been making about $1,000 a month based on that. And a lot
Mm.
of people think that when you have this 1 million followers, that the money is just running in. It's running in because we're getting 1 million followers and an X amount of views. Right now, I just saw someone who said 1 million views. I want to say it's TikTok, but let's say across social media, they're pretty similar. 1 million views gets you $1,000. And so you're looking like, so 65 million views would get you. And this is not a sneeze at. I mean, it's a view. However, we know how hard it is to get 1 million views. You're like, oh, so we get a chance to take a look at it. So just comparing ourselves to those things is interesting. Now you also mentioned the wanting to come to this place to get this mate, and this is where I really want people to understand that the value of these. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't want or want to be the best at whatever it is that we're doing, and not to have these things and live a comfortable life and have X amount of money in the bank. Like, I'm not saying that a person, this is not something that the person should want to ascribe to. What I'm saying is that if this your mate, looking for the right mate, so to speak, like if she puts that, he or she puts that value on your life, saying that this is the standard of it as opposed to your character, then I think you're looking in the wrong place. You know what I mean? This is, I personally don't think it's for you. And I think people do that. And I don't care how much money you have. What's this guy's name? Amazon. He just got a divorce. So there's something wrong with that. And this guy's, what a rich Elon Musk. You read Elon Musk's story, the six, I think he had like 6 to 8 kids, and 4 to 5 mothers of his children, so on and so forth. These are the richest people in the world. So the money is not going to take place for this character, this value, this, and especially once you place it on yourself. And I think a lot of us are rushing to get involved with certain people who don't necessarily share your same values,
Mm.
which may be the character. So it's even more so for you to kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, what is this? What is this about? Because I'm also noticing a lot of people who are in marriages based upon that, and then it seems like you're trying to make up for something that you can't make up for, because there's not enough. If someone does not value you for you being you, you know what I mean, and anything else is additional to it, then you're kind of trying to fill a hole that can't be filled. So, and if you don't value yourself, and this is where it happens, if you don't value or see the worth in yourself, then you're easily going to get caught up in thinking that if I get this thing, whether it's a person, place, or a thing, a person, place, or some type of object, like this is going to make me better. That's not the case,
Mm.
because you can grab all these things and still feel unfulfilled, right? I think at some point in time we want to be fulfilled, and I think that comes from just being in alignment with, your all your values, and then also knowing that you are worthy and you have this value.
Yeah. Yeah, man, for sure. I, knowing your own value is where it's at. I think that takes some groundwork. I think that what that takes is that takes
Absolutely. Respect.
internalizing a few things, checking yourself out. Like you said, the word alignment. I think that you need to align your heart and your mind. Make sure that you know who you are, what you bring to the
Yeah,
table.
just go
This
ahead,
is
brother.
this is what this is what it really comes down to. I think that self-development is where it's at. That's where we need to be at, because like Zig Ziglar, he said, your value doesn't decrease based off of what other people believe you're worth.
Absolutely.
So when we understand that, it changes everything. I got one of my mentors, he would say he had one suit. He had one suit. He was working his way to becoming a millionaire. He wanted to get his life together. He was the first one in his household. He came from like trailer style lifestyle. Nobody believed in him. He borrowed every dime that he could get to be in this one environment, which was enriched with people who had a drive to do something better with their life. He was a surfer, long hair, hung out at the bars. That's what he was. And inside of himself, he realized that's not the life he wanted to have. He wanted to actually do something for his mom. He didn't want her to have to suffer like she had been suffering. I mean, the way that he has told me the story, they were really, really, really poor and abused and all those and so many other really bad things that sometimes come along with being in that type of circle. And for him, he just had to get out of there. And it got to the point where he was chasing after becoming a different person, because for him, it was not just, I'm going to grab $1 million, because he didn't understand the concept of what $1 million was, but it was, I'm going to grab a new lifestyle. I'm going to change my life. And on the way to changing my life, I'm going to become so financially secure that I'm going to I'm going to rescue my mother out of the ghetto. That's what I'm going to do. And it got to the point where he was working diligently so hard and he wasn't getting paid a dime for months on end. And he went and he spoke with his mother, and his mother tells him, she said, "What are you doing over there? Those people are robbing you broke." And she just berated him to the point where he just hung up the phone. And he didn't call back again until after he made it. And the story goes, he went on, he rescued his mom, put her in a new home, took care of her. Everything else solved itself over time. And he's still a great man to this day, great man. But it's like what he found along the road was not, I want to be rich. What he found along the road was, I got to be a better man. I'm living a lifestyle that has me stuck as a man who doesn't believe in himself, who doesn't believe he'll ever be able to do anything with himself, who the people that I'm around don't believe I'll ever be anything. I'm destined to be nothing. And when I go into this other environment, everybody is cheering me on. They're pumping me filled up with energy. They're excited that I'm there. They believe that I'm going to do something great. And that feeling, that energy of positivity was so infectious that he began to desire to change his life at a high level. And he did. I think that that's the message that we really need to capture in this day, is that because you don't have to be a millionaire, right? I mean, success is reaching the goal that you have put inside your own mind. If my desire is to retire at 45, live in a trailer in Hawaii, and work at the local Kona farm for coffee beans, and I move over there, retire, buy me the smallest trailer I can possibly find with cash, owe nothing else, and go work at the local Kona place, walk to and from work, and live in Hawaii. I'm done, y'all. I don't need $1 million. Maybe I just need 150,000, and I'm done. That's success. But it takes a man to have like this true self-worth, and I believe deep down in my heart that's where we are today. Is like, men, find your self-worth, and it cannot be in the eyes of another. As long as it's in somebody else's eyes, then the judgment that they have of you has the ability to move you left, right, up, or down. But the minute the only eyes I'm looking into is the ones that are in the mirror, I'm looking at my own and I'm saying to myself, who am I? And I decide for myself. I put myself in the scale of value for myself. And at that very moment, I decide whether or not my value is high or low based on my own thoughts. And I would venture to say every single one of us should say my value is high. I mean, Mike, how many human beings didn't even make it through the birth canal? Like, let's be real. And how many, once they made it through the birth canal, even survived the first year of life? These are things that we don't really think about. My dad, he would come in, Apostle Jenkins, he would come in and he would say something like this. He would say, no matter how bad your life is, I can take you somewhere right now for someone who would love to trade shoes with you. He used to work, at this one location where people were missing legs, arms, family left them. They can't wipe themselves, they can't feed themselves. And some of us struggling are like, we're losing. We're losing because of what's happening inside here. So let's go and let's fix this. Turn the cell phone off, turn the cable off, turn the music off. They used to say, he don't play the radio. Turn it all off. Ground yourself. Align yourself. That's the most important thing, because your value is true and every single one of us brings something to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge. Um, I think I'm listening to your mentor story, and this is it's huge in our community where 77% of children are born into single family households, and when we start to miss, when we grow up in environments as such, and we have uh, certain models around to where you have to get away from them, because they're not instilling this in you. To be honest, a lot of this story is interesting to me because a lot of you're actually taught not to have value or worth,
Mm.
because a baby like you mentioned, which I think is huge, and and we can and to be able to look at that example that you said, like how many don't make it out the birth canal, how many don't make it. I think the odds to being born is like so crazy right now that if you just put that in on your, you can go back and take a look at it, but we don't, because we're going through life, and everybody has their own challenges and so on and so forth. But nobody comes into this world as a child and says, I don't have worth. It's taught. And a lot of these things go back to abandonment issues. And a lot of these things are big because you're raised in homes where people are frustrated and they're looking out for their own needs and so on and so forth. I am telling people that you need to go to therapy. I think a lot of people need to go seek therapy from a professional therapist. Don't, go seek it from somebody that knows what they're doing. And then to your point also is to actually define these things for yourself. What is it that I want for yourself, and not through the eyes of the people that came before you. At some point in time, I'm a huge fan. You need to go back and forgive these people, because most people are doing the best they can with the knowledge it is that they have. I do believe that, but being able to define for yourself, what does success look like for you? I believe Earl Nightingale said it's successfully moving towards the goal that you want. So what
Yes.
does that look like for you? What is, my mentor says, and you can break these three things down, I think, and this will get you to your success, is like, what does abundant time look like for you? To where it's not like you're always in a rush. There's not enough time in a day. I know you hear a lot of people who I would deem unsuccessful, they say these different things. What does daily joy look like for you? Like, are you finding daily joy with what it is that you're doing throughout the day? I don't care what it is, that your occupation, your career, whatever. Like, are you finding daily joy within that? You can find daily joy within everything. Just in the, me having this conversation with Joel is daily joy for me. So being able to be here, going into the group, the gathering, is daily joy when you come out there and being able to listen to the stories of others, and brothers being in there, being vulnerable, so on and so forth. And then the last part is financial freedom. What does financial freedom look like to you? My
Mm.
lifestyle is not your lifestyle, and your lifestyle is not my lifestyle. You might like cars. You might be a Bentley or a Rolls Royce enthusiast, a Mercedes enthusiast, but you might like Hondas. You might like that, might be your thing. Figure out a way how to include that into your life. You might like boats. People like boats. People like people like fishing. You know what I mean? Like, so what are these different things, and how can you? My word of the year is curate. How do you curate your lifestyle to include all these things? And if they're not there, what is stopping it from being there?
Ah,
This is the time that when the brother says this is the time where once you get a lot of these because we spoke about limiting beliefs. Once you get understand a lot of these limiting beliefs, figuring out where they came from. Hint, hint. Most of it came from your parents. Where do these limited beliefs come from? And if 77% of people in the community that are born to single parents, there's a roadmap. So there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to happen, and then there's a lot of what your mentor did is stop picking up the phone and start to realize who it is that I am and the people that I'm around. Because unfortunately, as good as these people are for us, some of them can't see our vision or even understand our vision,
Ah,
and not
that's it.
know, and they don't necessarily know. So and a lot of these people are, they tend to be nurturing. Like they want to, nobody wants to see their child hurt. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these things is incredible to me, to the way that we think about, our parents, or etc. Like our parents, as crazy as it makes, there's no animal in the kingdom that does not love their child, father that doesn't love their child. You're going to be hard pressed to find that. So for you to tell me that human beings, they don't want to be around their kids, they're deadbeats or whatever it is that you want to call them, it's not the case. This is something that's just put onto us and told to us, possibly from hurt people or people that have believed the narrative that's never been around those people. But once you get into your own mind, and once again, sometimes that comes with the separation, that separation of saying, okay, I'm hearing this, what a renewing of the mind. And even so, how can I love and forgive these people? Because it's all going to start within yourself.
Yeah,
Once you start to do those different things, now you can, because I would say this is, and I'm a firm believer, and it's just kind of just stopping and starting to become conscious and aware of these different things before you do anything.
that's it.
Is to become conscious and aware and just stop. And the brother has a saying that he got from his mentor, his guide, where it says, wherever you find yourself, check yourself. So if you're listening to this conversation, it's like, I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to immediately stop everything that's going on in your life. I want you to start to become aware of these things that are going on in your life. Oh man, I'm moving.
That's it.
I'm starting to move in a certain direction, and then I get a phone call from somebody, and somebody's saying, "Oh, what you doing now? Oh, you doing this again?" Just be aware. Don't say anything to that person. Just start to become aware. Start to see where your energy is going and how your energy is being expand. How whether you're gaining energy from this conversation or whether you're losing energy from this kind of conversation. Like, what is that? What's going on in my life? And spend it might for me it took like a month and a half, and and it was very uncomfortable to sit in that type of stuff because I'm always used to doing. But I
Mm,
sat and I became very, very aware of, and then when you start to realize, oh, this is how I'm holding myself back. Because when you start to look, it's ultimately it's this man in the mirror. It's starting to become accountable and responsible for everything that you're drawing into your life, and you allow to continue in your life. Because at any point in time, you can just stop it. You don't have to pick up the
mm,
phone. You don't have to return that text. You don't have to pick up, look through, scroll through Instagram or whatever. You really don't have to do any of these things. You can but you're choosing to do these things.
mm.
So once you become aware, then you say, okay, well, is this putting me in alignment? And this, I go back to alignment, and now am I aligned with what it is that I really want to do, and where do I get these things from? So
Mm.
I think a lot of these different things are just some basic things that you can start to start moving in a direction. Go ahead, brother.
No, that's it. And those basic, like, let's not downplay basic. Let's
Oh
not
no.
downplay that
Yeah, yeah.
because too many times. Like, listen, right now I feel like this conversation just went to the people that are really trying to do something with their life and not trying to just skate by or be like the Joneses. They're looking for the true self. They're going through identity crisis, or maybe they are finding themselves being a little more sure of themselves and they're looking for what the next step is. that type of thing. The community beacon is not even really for people who just want to do the paparazzi type of thing and look like they're doing well.
Yeah.
It's for just real
Yeah.
people with real concerns that want to live real lives. And whatever that means to somebody else, let it be. You can put it down there. You can put it down inside the chat. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. But like when you start talking about basic things, it's the rudiments. Even God got upset with the children of Israel, and he told Malachi, from the days of your fathers, you've left my rudiments. It's like, listen, I taught you how to do something in the days of your fathers that was supposed to last forever. And you lost that. And now you're trying to build on sand.
Sam. Mm.
You're building sand castles because you like the beach. Don't you know I'll send my storm by there. I'll wipe the place out and nobody will ever know you were there. No, go and build your house on firm foundation. Build it on a rock. What's the rock? I don't even know. It's the basics. Start with the basics. Make sure you got a strong foundation. Build right there. And I love what you were just saying because you said something that I've experienced, and I just recently experienced the same thing that you were talking about, which was just it was very significant for me. But I love to hear, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about what that was going on in your mind when you separated yourself from the world or from whomever for a month and a half, because this is where it starts. It starts with me. And so, as long as I'm taking in everything from everyone, I can't get to me. I can't hear me. I don't know what is my thought and what's his thought or her thought. I need
Hmm.
time to wash that stuff out so that I know my own voice and my own mind. And it's like what you're saying, that's powerful. So I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. Naturally, I think what happens is that we become very disconnected in this world, and whether we blame it on the phone. I have parents who used to watch the news 24/7, so that's all you heard was blasting of what was the news. So I can't even just say this is because it's not new. Separation has always been, being separation from self and starting to go out into the world. So that in regards to that is like it came to a point where it's like all this, like a lot of things just stop making sense because I'm doing everything that the world is telling me to do. I'm waking up at this time in the morning. I'm prioritizing this and prioritizing that. And then when I got it, I was not satisfied and I wasn't fulfilled. Well,
Mm.
I'm supposed to be fulfilled because that's what everybody else is supposedly fulfilled when they reach to a certain stage. I got this. I got the things. I got the people. Suppose the people that's supposed to be around me. I'm moving in this right in a certain direction. I got the information. So why are you not being fulfilled? Why are you still at this point? Why are you get to a point? And that it was the blessing and the curse for me. And I noticed it at a really young age. I got almost everything it is that I wanted because I had no problem getting after it, so to speak. But then you get it, and then it's something else. So there was no peace there, right? And so I think really what it came to, you mentioned being starting to get yourself grounded. I had a person who I was learning from who said you need to get grounded. And I'm like, well, grounded, what's that? We even had this conversation in the gathering last week. I'm like, well, what's that? And they were like, oh, you need to, take your shoes off and get grounded with the earth and start, get charged. So there's there's all types of metaphysical ways that these people explain this stuff to you, but it's really just simple. For me, grounded is just to be have all my resources. What is and for myself, do you love yourself? Are you compassionate with yourself?
That's my type of grounding. Yes.
Yeah, are you patient with yourself? Like it all because it starts with you. And how do you do that? Because and here's how you know you're not doing it. And I hear a lot of people say this thing. They say, "Well, Mike, I can't meditate because my mind is always going." Well, it's supposed to be that you're wired that way, right? And this is something new. But then when you listen to the Bible, say, "Peace, be still."
Ah.
So we can't have it both ways. So it was just like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna be still. And that month and a half, because it's different, because it's I haven't tried this before, and I tend to be kind of neurodivergent. I'm not claiming it, but there's a term called neurodivergent, which means that you're always thinking something's always going on in your mind, so on and so forth. I started saying it's not a curse. Well, I'm always no. Let me start to observe these thoughts and where it is. And I was doing it the other morning. And I was it starts to become comical, because then you you're observing these thoughts and you're like, well, how did I even get here? You know what I mean? Like, this is not God's way for me. And I'm at a point where now I know it. It's like you just get to this point of knowing. So it's funny now. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, let that happen. That'd be funny. Oh, this is gonna happen. You lose it all. Okay, well, I have no worry for tomorrow, because this is the path that I need, that I'm called to go in. So on and so forth. So once again, it's a month and a half, and you're still getting these messages. We can't run and hide from it, because this is what these people are teaching. And this is where this is the American illusion. Oh, grind until so on and so forth. And I'm not saying these things don't happen. I'm not saying don't do work whatsoever. But it's like, you got to grind. You got to get up early in the morning. Sleep is the cousin of death. You don't need to do this. XXNO. Like, this is what needs to happen in order for you to reach this pinnacle that they think is supposed to be what it is. But it's not what what you're choosing, and it's probably not what God's choosing. It's probably not aligned within His purpose. Everybody's not meant to be the same thing. So now, when you start to figure out, like, what the voices that you're having, when you start to become connected, because through separation comes connection. I can never forget. I wrote that one time on Facebook. I said, I'm separating. And through the separation came the connection with oneself. All of these things that I'm teaching you, like all of these, like, you can have all this right now. You can have the peace right now. You can have the love right now, because it doesn't take anybody or anything in order for you to achieve these things. Everything else is just a bonus, right? Like the people that come around, like, it's a bonus, because now you're really starting to look at it. You're starting to look at people, like, how are they adding to this? Like, what's going on? And now I can say, well, either I'm going to bring this along, or is it curation. I'm not going to keep this. Like, the conversation is very low. Nowadays, I'm not really telling people things unless they ask me to. And then, even then, I'm kind of saying, well, you might allow them to have their journey. But it's like, a person, I can be alone and not lonely. So a person coming in now is just like, it's just an added bonus, because these are things that God, in my mind, God is giving to me, right? Like, this is my belief, is God is giving this to me, this extra money. I take the phone calls. I don't have the specific way that things are supposed to go, because I don't know how it's supposed to go. We have to get to the point of knowing and understanding that it's to Him that can do exceedingly.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's exceedingly. So anything it is that I'm thinking about, the specific way that it needs to be, it's not exceeding. It's just the way that I think that it should be. And who am I? Who am I for, definitely for somebody else, but also for myself? Who am I to stop the progress? You could wake up in the morning, you could be so aligned and get to a knowing, and you can be at a place where it just changed in this instant. Someone just knocks on your door, and this your whole life trajectory changes in any direction. You can get a phone call, and all of a sudden you had a great day, and you get a phone call, and something takes you into a different pathway. This whole time has changed. I know we've all experienced this, where you get that phone call and it's like, oh, this is not what I consider my day to be, but it's just a stepping stone to go in the way of the purpose. And you gotta, another saying I have is, either by choice or by force. And so it's like, so you can go in that direction by choice, or you can be forced to go. This is Jonah in the whale, right? So that month and a half was what I was needed. It could have it could and time is not is relative, right? It could have been a day. It could have been, some people, it's a day. I've seen someone who said they went up on a hill for 4 to 5 hours, and I understood where they were going. They didn't have to tell me. We get it's an understanding. You can go up on the hill, and it can happen in an instant, because what it really has to do with, it has to do with letting go.
Yeah.
It has to do with what's the S word? Not sacrificing, but surrendering. It has to do with the letting go and the surrendering, and saying, "Thy will be done."
Mm.
Right? And it's not. This doesn't mean that you just stop and you're laid up in bed and you don't move. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. But it's more. It's more of just like a letting go and a surrendering. That to wrap it all up. That's what happened for me in about a month and a half. It was
Mm.
surrendering and letting go and being grateful, thanking, even your enemy, not wishing bad on your enemy, just saying, listen, be blessed. And I
Mhm.
hope, and being really saying, I hope it does work out for you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like this is the forgiveness and acceptance part. I accept it. I'm forgiven. I hope it all works out for you. This is not to say that you're not having healthy boundaries. Keep, have some type of healthy boundaries. We're still human, right? Yeah. If someone punched you in the eye and that's the fifth time they did it, you can forgive them, but don't stand within arm's reach. Don't
Yeah.
stand within arm's reach. Feed them with a long spoon is another saying. Is a part of my metaphors. So it's just like this surrendering, this letting go. Dope book, and I always use the example is the book Letting Go by but the brother know I always recommend it. I'll tell you exactly who the author is. Go ahead, brother. As I look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I definitely do. I feel like that's really important. This whole, and I feel like grounding, that's what grounding is to me. That's what grounding is to me. It's really me getting closer to whoever I am. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like we get lost in the work and the family and the journey and David R. Hawkins.
Mm.
And we just get kind of lost. I think people get lost in that and trying to reach their goals. And sometimes their goals are misaligned. They're not even, they may not even be the right goals. Not to say that any goal is a wrong goal, but sometimes maybe that's not really what you're looking for. And self worth, getting wrapped up into that, I think that it happens. And I'm concerned with the young people of this day and age and their self worth going down the drain over the last, I don't know, what would you say, 10 years? Especially, in the last 4 years, I feel like I've heard of so many more, I'm going to say, gun violence towards children against children, and also suicide in children. And it's like, why? Why is this happening? I looked up a statistic and it stated that for every four children that are born, two people are dying. It's like that's a lot. It's a whole lot. It's a pretty huge statistic. And it's just like I don't think we need to be right there because if we have the right morals and the right values, if we have positive morals and positive values, and we're thinking about true worth. What do I mean by true worth? I'm glad you're here.
Amen.
I think that when we start thinking about that I'm glad you're here. What can we do today? How can I help you? What you got going on in your life? When we start thinking about questions like, how's your mom? How's your dad? How's your brother? What's going on with your niece? When we start thinking about questions that have something to do with what have you been reading? Do you like going to the beach? You want? Hey, let's go. When we start thinking about just these types of questions that have nothing at all to do with money, nothing to do with some type of tangible gain, but just the sheer appreciation of being in the room with somebody you care about.
Amen.
I think when we get back to that, and I think the only way we truly get to that is by being okay with being in the room with ourselves.
Amen.
I don't believe that we can easily appreciate another individual without having self appreciation. I believe that grounding takes two things before you can branch out into any relationship with anyone else. The first relationship is with yourself. The second relationship is with your God. Take those two serious. And if you're older like I am, you may want to make your relationship first with your God. But I think that those two relationships are absolutely necessary. As a young person, very small, adults, fathers, we should be putting into our
Hmm.
children positivity. We should be filling them up with self value, self worth. We should be showing them that appreciation and using words that signify they are valuable without anything attached. One thing that I started to use with my son was, he might listen to this, watch this, but we have such a open dialogue. It's a kind of funny. At one point in time, his grades were not doing the best, and his mother came to me, and this was a thing. It was a big thing. But what I saw in him, I just, what I see in him, I see a genius. I see somebody who is so thoughtful, so creative. If he's not doing his best, he actually chose not to. That's what I see. So I started to call him genius. Like, this kid, he's a genius. And dare somebody else say something else. Nah, he's a genius. But look at his grades. Just wait. Just wait. You wait. My belief was so strong. Before you know it, that boy started coming back with B's, A's, A's and B's. I didn't do anything different. I didn't sit down and study with him. I didn't call up his teachers. The power of a word filled with confidence, love, and truth. Like, I think you said it a little while ago. People, when we say things to other people and when we say things to ourselves, it needs to be filled with so much truth that we can hang our hat on that word. When we start doing that and using positive feedback and positive words, I believe that we can bridge any troubled river. Yeah.
That's it. You said it best, man. I just your opening statement. I am glad you're here. That's it. You can with the brother's gifted with words and the brother's gifted with empathy, so he goes a little bit. He can go a little bit deeper. I think for the most part, the typical person. I'm glad you're here. This is what you tell yourself in the mirror
Ah,
in the morning. And then this is what you, when you're interacting with people, you do it the same way. This is the presence. Once you get to that point, I, call me what you want. So, some people call me arrogant, confident. It, I just have this feeling. Thank God for my grandfather, my father too. Shouts out to those two gentlemen. I just have a feel. It doesn't even matter. I don't have to say a thing to know that I'm contributing. Didn't have to say nothing. It could just be as simple as a head nod. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
in my mind I said I did my thing.
Yeah. And that is set up. Like, let's not miss that as
Yeah.
fathers. That there I bet if Mike, if you were to go down memory lane, there was some conversation somewhere along the line that gave you the indication that when you got that head nod, you did something.
Well, bro, I'm saying I'm giving the head nod.
You're giving the head nod.
Like I'm giving, and you're giving the head nod. Like
That's
these,
what I
like
mean.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. These things. But here's the thing: it's so, and this is what happens, and this is how success happens. This is how people's growth happens. This is how change happens. It's the littlest things, but
that's it.
the feelings and intentions behind it is so is such magnitude. But it's really just a being of oneself.
Yes.
It's so when you go and you tell your son you're a genius just from how you are, because now we have to separate. I don't want to go too deep for people, but so forgive me, guys. But just from the way that you are, your way of being, there's this automatic respect, okay? Because it's always been there in his mind. You have been this huge character. Your presence is that, right? So that's why I kind of speak to the single parent, because what happens is that as a single parent, and then you come in later or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of things in our mind that we have to break down, so there
Yes.
tends to be some kind of disconnect before we
Yes.
can even get to that part. You get I'll go into just a quick, like just the average thing that happens is, well, you weren't there for me, whoever it is. You weren't there for me. So you're not automatically just assuming or taking this thing as powerful as it is, because you, in your mind, this is the limited belief. I got to get over this part first, and then we start to become very um particular in how we want it done. If I
That's
say
it.
this, this person got to say it this way, and they don't say it this exact same way, I'm not gonna believe them. I don't trust it. The trust is not there. But if you're already there, this is the significance of having that two-parent household. This is the significance of having these people around, both mother and father. They both play a huge part. Is that I don't even have to go to that part. Like Jonah doesn't have to get there, right? Jonah's automatically, when you start saying genius and you continuously say that and you're in his life all the time, it's like, oh yeah, I am. Yeah, I know you smarter than that. That's what you got to say. "Yeah, I know you smarter than that. You can do better than that. You're not better, excuse me. I know you're smarter than that. I know you have it. What makes you not do it? Now it's not even. It's a what makes you not do it. And then on Jonah's end, and I don't want to speak for Jonah, but oftentimes it's like, I don't want to let this person down, and you know what? I can. So it's no longer this false bravado. Oh yeah, I got the confidence because I'm borrowing his confidence. My dad walk around like this. He talks like this. I'm in the image of him. So now I can do
Ooh,
this. And then
yeah,
it goes deeper than that when we start to say, well,
yeah,
who we're in the image of, right? Because then there's no question about our worth, so on and so forth.
yeah,
So this is those little things. This is these minute things that we do, and not even do, we are, and we're in the being of it, and it makes a huge change and a huge difference. I'm excited to see the future, because what we're starting to see in the last, I want to say maybe 10, maybe 10 to 20 years, because there was, I almost call them like the missed generation, like
mm,
they missed out on a lot. But we are starting to see that the fathers are more involved. The course system is changing in that regards. We're starting to see the mothers start to come around to these different ideals and not feel like they have to do it on their own and by themselves. Hopefully that continues in that kind of way. But either way, just being there. But overall, once we get to this point of, and this is but it starts with us, right? And within our households, we're teaching them that I'm glad you're here.
yeah.
when you see your son, that sparkle, that hug that you give him, that horsing around, when he come there and just be bothering you, try to
Yeah.
choke you from, give you that chokehold from when you're
God,
not paying it, when you're not
boy.
paying attention or something. That's him expressing that he's glad that you're here because he's
Yeah.
having this interaction because he can't do it to his mom like that. You know what I mean? Like not the way that he's horsing around with you, but he's glad that you're here. When he sees the mother, he's glad that she's here, and then ultimately it's like I'm glad I'm here because you're
Yeah.
showing that to him, right? So it's that give and take. But I love that. That probably should have been the name of the episode is in regards to you unlocking our self worth. That's an entire chapter within itself. Is I'm glad you're here. Who you,
Yes.
me, so on and so forth, man. Oh man, what a dope conversation.
Man, I'd like to put a challenge out there.
Hmm.
Speaking about unlocking your self worth, I put a challenge out there. Mike stated that he used a month and a half. He knew someone who used 4 hours. For me, I think that I had a spell of maybe about 3, 4 months. I had a lot of things going on in my mind, and it took me all of that. I don't know what it is for you all out there, but when it comes down to unlocking your self worth, if there is a concern there, I challenge you, shut it down. What? Let's put a value right now on your self worth. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your self worth at?
Mm,
And be real. Like you'll feel it in your stomach when you're lying to yourself. Be real. If your value is low enough for you to feel as if you're lying to yourself, or if your value is low, whatever you think, I challenge you. And for those of y'all who feel like your value is high, I challenge you too. Challenge you to take that time, whatever it is. You can call it 30 days, you can call it 45 days, you can call it 60 days. But go into a little bit of hibernation almost. Go
mm,
into a self-evaluation. Go into time of meditation. It may take you a little bit of time just to get it all together.
yep.
Start shutting down those social medias. Start turning the TV off. Start turning the news off. You really got to see the news, read it. Start shutting the radio off. When you have those conversations with people that always end up being some type of argument, shut those conversations off. Positivity. I remember one time I was going into a revival, and my pastor, he said to me, he said, what will happen now that you are looking to be saved is people are going to start arguing with you. They're going to cut you off in the road. They're going to curse you out. Things are going to start happening because you're attempting to get yourself right. What I want you to do is I want you to just ignore those things and keep moving. Make sure you keep yourself out of danger. Don't answer those phone calls. Stop talking when those arguments come up inside of your family with people that you can't get away from. Don't even talk. If you have to, you can write a note, a letter, or you can say one word. I'm not I'm not having an argument. I'm not speaking. Say that. And whenever these things start to overcome you, call me direct. That's what it will say. So I'm going to put this out there. I challenge you to take the time to find yourself.
It's
And
worth it.
if for some reason somebody is still attacking you, DM me on Instagram, J.Simmons, tenacity. DM me on Instagram or go to the YouTube and we'll connect. And I'll be there for you while you go through this month or month and a half. That's free of charge because I feel like it's so necessary that it's worth it. So I'll be your text buddy, your accountability buddy. Challenge you.
That's awesome. Let's leave it there, guys. You are worth it. You are worth it. You are worth it. Stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with it. I think this was an awesome conversation. We definitely appreciate you all for checking in. We'll replay this again at 6:30 later on this evening. And other than that, brother, any parting words? We good?
Love you, man. This was
All
good.
right.
Man, thank you for sharing all of that, man. That was
Likewise.
good. That was good.
Likewise. Peace, y'all. Appreciate it.